a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind.
It was basically a cube with inside of a sphere where the points of the cube were touching the outside of the sphere.
Roger. There's troubleshooting as soon as I
So this isn't anything that just is limited to the United States. It's a worldwide phenomenon.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to That UFO podcast. We've got a special bonus show for you this week. As Dan and Vinnie prepare to head off to Colombia, we wanted to chat through how the guys are feeling, where they're at with planning, and also answer some of your questions as well. And very glad to say Ashley Cowie, organiser, curator, general head of the whole trip, has joined us for this one again as well. Ashley, how are we?
I'm really good, thanks. Really excited to be talking to you about all this.
Yes, the days they're ticking by now, aren't they? And obviously, I'm not going myself, but I'm sending the next best thing. Vinnie, you're going, aren't you? So you're looking forward to it?
Yes, I cannot wait. I've just been counting down the days for a long time now, and it's this close.
It's very close. And Dan, you've been doing your last minute shopping?
Yeah, Vinny is graciously letting me carry his bags for the trip, so I'm going along just to kind of be his caddy and moral support, just part of the hype crew. I'm almost ready. Some of the COVID restrictions will be relaxed by the time we get back, so it's actually simpler than we prepared for. So it's good that we kind of have the plan B in place with that. But yeah, just swimming trunks now.
Most people listening to this will have no doubt heard our interview with Ash Cowie, part 1 and part 2, where we discussed phenomenology. Ash stays out in Colombia and the documentary, what it's about, the light phenomena going on there. If you haven't, definitely go and check that out after this interview. This is a chance for the gents to discuss the preparations for the trip, how things are looking now over in Colombia, how Vinnie and Dan are getting on and preparing for it as well. And you know what? So many of you donated when Dan put up the GoFundMe to make sure he could get out there, because he wasn't going to be able to without that help. And it was a phenomenal response, no pun intended. So yeah, it's a chance for those of you who have donated to feel a little bit more involved with the trip as well. And like we've said, during the trip, Dan's going to be creating as much content as he can, not to spoil anything that's getting recorded and filmed, but to kind of keep abreast of the situation and what's happening out there. But Dan, let's kick off with a quick kind of thanks again to the folks who donated and made this possible.
Yeah, absolutely. We finished the fundraising over Christmas for the charities, and it was an amazing feeling to kind of be able to give that much. And then this opportunity came up, and we thought, why not? Let's ask and see if we can make this a reality. And everyone's been so kind with their support that it just feels like we're carrying a lot of positivity with this trip. And I'm very, humbled and blessed to be able to go and do this. Kind of, there were a few messages through the GoFundMe where people were kind of saying that for health reasons they wouldn't be able to do something like this, and they were really glad that they were able to get the opportunity to support us guys going to do it. So it was really nice, very encouraging. So thank you to everybody who put anything in. I really appreciate it.
And I think that's the beauty of the project as well. It's a grassroots project, not to talk down about what the quality is going to be like, obviously, but it's by people who are passionate about the subject, who want to make something that's not out there to make tens of thousands of dollars. And, if everyone makes money and gets famous, fantastic. Isn't that always the way? But it's there to really explore a genuine phenomena that's happening in very close proximity to where Ash stays. And Ash, let's kick off then the conversation from your end. How are things looking? Because you're in quite close proximity, aren't you, to the area?
We live in front of it. As you know, we're 2.36 miles from the mountaintop that features in the documentary. But I'm going to start the same as you by saying thank you to everybody that helped get Dan here and fund that, because since we've told people that Dan are coming, we've had someone from London who's going to come directly as a result of wanting to meet Dan there. And we have a fellow from New York, a girl from New York who's coming. And it's the same thing with wanting to meet Vinnie. Now, here's the thing. We had 70 applications in the last 3 weeks since we put this out. People who've actually said, I want to know the costs. I want to know the dates. I really want to come. However, when you filtered that all down, it went out to hundreds of thousands of people. That many applied, and now we've got you two, and we have another 6 participants, including then this whole surrounding field of Colombians that are going to be built in, the landowners, the people that are going to be looking after us. So a thank you to everybody that sort of made that happen and take it up a level from an idea on my shelf to something that was really well known. And you too, Andy. And that goes to, you know, everybody in this thing. It was a sort of, it's a square of 4 parts, you know, you can see us on the screen there, but between us all, we made this thing actually become a reality with 2 weeks to go before it all starts and happens, which I'd love to inform you about and tell you about, but do you want to know anything specific so far?
Absolutely, yeah.
Can I just jump in and ask, because you know, Andy, you said there about quality, and you know, in some conversations we were speaking about, you know, are we shooting this in, you know, 460p? What are we gonna do? But yeah, I'll hand over to Ash just to kind of give an idea of what to expect in terms of what the footage is going to look like.
We've got this decision made, right? We actually sent it out. We're going to be calling this theme or the arc throughout the whole show. It's going to have this edit piece, and it's going to be called the McGrillen. And the reason is because where people expect music, I might even break the fourth wall, turn around to the screen, and almost, where is it? So here's the thing. We can announce now we're filming in 4K. It's all going to be filmed in 4K. Even the drone shots, all of the cutaway shots, everything is. So the actual quality of the filming is going to be great. The cameras will do their job. And then the edit's kind of down to me. That's where you can make it or break it, right? Depending on what worked and what didn't and what you can use. But, you know, we're aiming to make it the best quality thing we've done within the budget constraints that we've got. And we're talking about myself and my wife doing almost everything as far as production's concerned, not on the week. On the week, we have a big expanded team, but the actual production that determines the quality, that's the real bit of pressure I'm under. I have no doubts that everybody that's coming is going to make amazing visual, just TV. Let's call it TV, although it will be online most probably. It's the rendering of that and the holding back. You know, this less is always more is something I live by. And if we can hold back the resistance to put in the big bombastic music when somebody sees a torch flashing because a bike passed the gate, if we can resist talking about, if we can resist conspiracy because it's prevalent, right? It's all around us here. I've got to tell you this story. This is something that's happened as an update. Myself and Natty, 1 and 2, went to this farm mansion that we're staying in. It's really incredible. 130 years old. It's in an estate on its own with a church above it that looks directly over at the mountain. Clear view, 3 miles exactly. We met the estate keeper. His name was Angelo. And when we were in the garden and he was showing us this platform where we can set the cameras and the telescope and everything up at night, I asked Angelo in my horrendous Spanish if he had seen the lights on the mountain. And he just started rattling and he lost me. I just lost it. And I asked Natty after it, what did Angelo say? And she said, he's a little bit annoyed because you, like everybody else, keeps talking about the lights. And Angelo said, there's 2 types of things that get seen up on that mountain. He goes, yep, there's the light phenomenon right there. But he goes, then there's the UFOs. He goes, they communicate different. They happen at different times. And I would just stood there and shook my head and thought, here we go. Every part of the people surrounding this production are convinced they're seeing UFOs at this legendary UFO hotspot. So what that means is our soil is fertile. We have got true phenomenology to explore. Let me talk about that just a little, not about the show, but about the word. The word phenomenology itself, while, you know, of course, I'm using it for the document, but it actually represents a 20th century movement. A German scientist and mathematician, Edmund Husserl, he founded a movement, a scientific movement that was greatly based on non-Cartesian dynamics. And what I mean by that is he was more focused in the conscious experience of a phenomenon experienced by someone. So the actual conscious experience of the phenomenon, rather than the Cartesian, this object connects with this object and results in this. So we're going to be greatly focused on the experience that people have with this phenomenon. And what I mean then by fertile soil is everybody around it has an experience of the phenomenon. So we're going to get the first section of big data from a lot of people all looking at the same phenomenon. So it's pretty exciting, you know. Even Angelo, he has his UFOs.
Now, you mentioned you've got the team coming over from, or you've got people traveling from now New York, you've got Wales, you know, England, all over the planet. The Colombian team, though, they're obviously there already. What sort of expertise, other than that passion and experience, are they bringing to the production as well?
Right, this is great. We have a guy from Medellin who owns an aerospace company. He's an aeronautical engineer, and he builds drones for the Colombian American military and tests them himself. He's coming over so we can fly drones, big ones, at long distance. We're going to photograph them and video them at night with thermal cameras, with normal cameras, with restrictions that are in place by, you know, iPhone cameras. And what we can do then is experiment and see which of these phenomenon are UAVs, military vehicles, military craft, and which aren't. But to know that, you've got to know what such a thing would look like. And I think it's great too, because think about this one. I had quite something to say a few months ago on I think it was called the duck UFO. And I always thought it was a shame that nobody at that time, including myself, that was skeptical to that ever produced a camera on a drone actually filming another drone with a FLIR 1. So we're going to do that. We're going to actually film a large meter by a meter drone with another drone equipped with FLIR, so we can see what drones look like under FLIR conditions. That's really cool. So that's what the Colombians bring into the project. In one instance, got another one. We've got this really eminent professor, an ex-statesman. His grandfather was an Archbishop of Colombia. He's a writer, he's a poet. He's coming along because he's really into Victorian phenomenology, everything from mediumship and witchcraft, which was huge in Colombia back in the 1940s and the 60s. So this old professor is going to tell us about how people in Tabio, the village, interpreted these light phenomena 80 years ago, 70 years ago. So that's another great investment. We're getting stories, the phenomenon, the experiences from people that are going right back, you know. So that's another great thing. And we also have Natty Doss, we call her. She's a production assistant on the show. Natty's going to present us with what I regard as the sharpest, highest definition video of a UAP that's not all that anyone's ever seen, but just that it's actually what it claims to be. It's sharp, it's unidentified, it's in the air, and it's not identifiable. So it's a phenomenon. So she has this on her phone that was filmed with 5 witnesses. We are getting to go to that remote farm location. We're going to identify exactly where this was filmed, this thing you're going to see, which we're keeping for the show. So what we got there is this whole matrix of farm workers, and we've got 5 eyewitnesses that are going to meet us. They're all going to meet us where this film was taken, and they're going to explain to us exactly what they saw as we're investigating the site. So isn't that exciting? There's just a cross-section of what Colombians are bringing to the documentary, and there's more.
I get to say it to Andy now, but you're on mute.
Okay, yeah, my bad. So I was on mute.
I thought you meant I was on mute.
No, me.
Oh, no, Andy. Yeah.
I'm leaving it on. But
it's usually me.
I was really engrossed in that, and I never do that. Ash, you mentioned the last person there, and did you say she was a production assistant?
Yeah, well, I say she's a production assistant. She's
I just want to mention, as you said it, it froze for a very split second, and it did sound like you said abduction assistant. So I just want to correct for anyone who heard that and thought, "Wow, they've got an abduction assistant." Just given what we're talking about, no, it was production. So yeah, no, that was all it
That
was.
would be a different kind of holiday, I think.
It
You know,
was-
come to Colombia, get abducted. There's someone that can
Yeah.
help us.
Everything's just got real creepy.
Yeah, it does sound really exciting. Ash, I'll give you a minute. I'm gonna chat to Vinny and Dan just to ask them, given they're hearing a lot of this as well.
Uh-huh.
Vinny, let's speak to yourself. You've got the nicer sounding voice. How are you feeling at this point? You're obviously hearing all this as well, and you know there's going to be these other people involved, and you're going out. You know, you're not traveling even just across Europe. You're going to South America, which is incredible. How are you feeling at this point?
I mean, it's a complete mixture of excitement. It's almost overwhelming as well, because when I first found out this is definitely happening, that initial shock in a way was huge. But the closer we've been getting, I've just been, emotions are flowing everywhere with excitement and possibilities, and the fact that we're actually going to be doing boots on the ground work around the UFO subject, and it's that to me is the step that I'd always dreamed of taking, is being someone who can say that I've done something like that. It's so exciting. And yeah, but then obviously the traveling part. I mean, I'm not the best flyer. I don't really like flying. So, but now I've
Me
got Dan
neither.
to.
Yeah.
Dan can we can hold hands on the plane, and
I also hate flying, so this is going to be fun.
Especially given we're talking about, potentially unidentified flying objects, and the two of you are traveling all the way out there to have a look at what these may or may not be. Are either of you, again, Dan or Vinny, like, do you have any expectations of going out there and what this is going to be, or what you think is going to be happening?
For me personally, I don't have any expectations. And I've got to remember, and I keep telling myself, and I have been for weeks now, that as much as I'd like this to be UFOs, I've got it really clear in my head that there's such a good chance that it is a prosaic or natural phenomenon. And now at this point, I'll just be glad if we actually get to the bottom of what it is, whether it's prosaic or not. We can just tick it off the list and move on to something else. But we know that the experience in itself is going to be epic. So I have no expectations. So yeah, I'm at a good point now mentally for this as well.
And Dan?
I mean, I'd agree with a lot of that. I think of it in the same way as I think of something like Hessdalen, or even more broadly, the Northern Lights. When I went to see those, you had a forecast and they said, oh, it's definitely going to happen. But once I got there, I learned that the word definitely was a coin toss anyway. So you kind of, you learn to temper those expectations. This could be absolutely incredible. And I think it will be, whether we find something on the mountain or not. But like Vinny said, the value is in getting boots on the ground and finding out whether it's something strange or whether it's something prosaic. And either one of those is a valuable step to take.
Ashley, now the itinerary for these gentlemen, they fly out on the 6th of February. I think Dan was saying before. When they land, what does their time in Colombia look like? Am I right in saying, is it 10 days, just under, just over?
Mm-hmm. So I've got them in here for arriving sometime on Monday the 7th. So I'm going to take them to HQ, which is about 2 hours north of Bogota, in the hills there in the Andes. So when they get there, they're never going to have been so tired in their life with the altitude. They're coming off a long haul flight and hitting altitude. So there's two options here. No, there's three options actually. So there's the Scotch method, which is you get wrecked on the plane. You sleep for 3 days, but you can't do that. Well, the other method is to come in and go to sleep. But another good one is you come in, then you take a shot of strong Colombian coffee and you stay up for the whole of the first day you're there and go to bed at reasonable time that night. But here's the thing. We have got a day before we start on Wednesday the 8th. We've got a day lined up about 5 miles from HQ. We're going to be doing some metal detecting for another thing I was involved in. So we're going to be going to this. It is very cool. We've got permission and we've got a bunch of farmers who are going to do the digging. So we're going to be swinging metal detectors for the 8th, which is great because we're going to be right in the heart here of the Valley of the Moon. You're going to get acclimatized to the mountain and what the valley looks like, because it is, you have no idea, Dan, how close to Hessdalen it is. It too is 8 miles long. It has two mountains, one on either side. There's a river runs down through the middle. One mountain range is laden with iron and the other is laden with copper. There's a highly charged iron river underneath the valley. The thing could serve or act as a battery, which would take the thing right into the Stalin phenomenon zone. However, this isn't about, as you know, so much about going and trying to establish what the cause of the lights is. It's equally about understanding the emotional reaction, the judgments, and the perception that's made by people who experience that phenomenon. And God willing, it's on the same week that 1 year ago I photographed the lights for this first time. I videoed it too. I've never actually published my own first 14-minute experience with lights. I've been putting up photographs of lights and the lights, the phenomenon, but I've never shared that first week or that first experience, but that's the week you're coming. So that's the first 2 days, acclimatization and being in the mountain. And then of course we're away, we're on locations, we're up for breakfast at 8 every day. We're all meeting around this enormous table. There'll be between 10 and 12, 15 people some days with the drivers and the safety guys. But we're going to be filming at locations most of the first 3 days. And then we're having this break day where we're filming on this enormous banquet table. The whole room's going to be cameraed up. What we're going to do is we're going to go through the photographs and the videos that have accumulated locally so far. And we're going to go through any that we ourselves get in the first 3 days investigation. And then another cool thing I'm just going to add about the documentary is we've had confirmation that a judge from New York is going to be here, booked and coming. I'm not going to say too much more about that, but we're going to get to present our phenomenological evidence to a New York judge. And is there anybody that might be better served to go UAP or shite?
Dan, I mean,
it sounds really special. You know, it's beyond just a bunch of people who are into the subject getting around a table. You know, there's, with the judge there's now that kind of official capacity, not necessarily in official capacity, but at least you know that kind of high bar for what we'll all be experiencing out there. And I love what Ashley said about ensuring that people's experience of it is captured too, because I'm sure we'll all have a range of emotions, you know, if we see the lights on the mountain between us all. And then there's the history of the place and everything that's happened there. So I'm really excited to kind of speak to everyone there and learn a little bit more about that.
Mm-hmm. And what's great for this is the let's call it the circumstance or the conditions of the documentary we're making. Like most documentaries are filmed in studios with really dramatic black light and lots of black clothes. Our entire location and scape is within the heart of a real life phenomenon that's seen a lot. Now, here's the thing. What's really cool about this is we're not going to have a week where we're going, fingers crossed, I hope something happens. What's the chances? Well, they're quite high here because, as I've said, we've got 2 airports within the vicinity. We've got the head police station 6 miles over behind this mountain on another mountain. There's stuff in the sky every night. What our job and objective is to do is go, what are people seeing that's leading them down the rabbit hole? And what are people seeing that is potentially unexplained? And that's when you open up the packet with everything from UFOs to the Stalin phenomenon. We're going to deep dive that packet, but it's everywhere. It's right round us. It's incredible. I'm so delighted the pair of you are coming. I can't even tell you.
Ashley, what do you think is going to surprise Vinnie and Dan most about the experience? Maybe something that they won't be expecting. You've talked about obviously the jet lag and the acclimatization, but about the whole production and experience.
That's a really hard one now. What would they not be expecting? I think it's going to be their own reaction to seeing possibly a hiker at the top of the mountain for the first time. Like, here we go. 5 days ago, we saw just that. Saw a hiker at the top. But it was 1:15 in the morning. What was a hiker doing at near zero at the top of that hill, which isn't safe to be on. It's another level of the mystery we're going to discuss. So what you do is you see these things, and it's bizarre because what you are doing is for the first time witnessing something. And what's exciting is, Vinnie, you've said you've not actually witnessed a UAP. You're going to witness UAP, and they are UAP until maybe the next morning when we sit down and go, well, hang on, look, Venus was there rocking its light just as it was going behind the mountain. And it's quite incredible what the stars do. You look out there and there's nothing, it's black. And then all of a sudden, the moon changes, the clouds come away from the moon, and then maybe the moon's low setting, and you look up and there is what appears to be lights at the top of the hill. So you have to discern what is natural phenomenon and what is something else. Now remember, this was first reported in 1608 in the church Tabio Church records, and the hill itself was baptized as the Hill of the Dancing Lights 400 years ago. So those weren't modern torches, hikers. There's something going on at this hill, and that's what we've got to explore. Where other shows are questioning whether something exists or it doesn't, we really kind of are starting beyond that question. As you say, it's a higher bar because what we're doing is exploring what is this. And I've got 72 photographs of my own and locally that have been published in the press and the media for us to go through, for us to tear apart, to question, to figure out where they were on maps, and then go to those places as a team. So it's real life stuff. It's not lots of studio stuff with intense chat talking about what ifs. It's going to be, what on earth are we going to do with all this? And I think you'll be most surprised at how you will react. It's quite a holistic thing when you see a light flashing up there. It really is. I don't want to talk too much about how I felt personally because each will respond differently to it. And while you're turning and whispering in my ear going, it's obviously the hikers we saw earlier on, someone else might be there texting their buddy because they know they just saw the first UFO, like happens here regularly. Back to Angelo, the keeper, who's got a whole system on how these things communicate. So yeah, how you will react to a light phenomenon is going to be the most interesting part for me, and that I don't think they'll expect.
How much do you plan on filming? Is it going to be constant when you're walking to locations or driving to locations? Is it going to be like hand cams, steady cams, drone cams, or is it a case of we're going to travel, we set up and we film and we film?
Mm-hmm. We're going to be. It's kind of everything a bit of everything you've just said, but because what the trouble is data storage. Okay, if you're a TV company, you've got endless data storage. We have to be selective on what we film, so we're not putting in 4 hours of 4K film into our hard drive, because then when you come to edit that, it's also a much slower, longer process. So there'll be GoPros in their general working environments within the house on the conversation days, which we have into sort of 2 or 3 block days. But when we're traveling, there'll be no needless jeeps going up the side of hills and all that stuff. We don't need to go for we've got such little time to offer so much data that we're going to be struggling for space. So we will be filming everything that we're talking about at the investigation sites. I'll be doing lots of filmmaker stuff, like asking people how they feel a lot, but especially when they're really buggered at the top of a hill, that kind of thing, right? I don't care if they're sitting having a coffee and Tabio enjoying everything. It's when they're perplexed and tired or hungry that I'll be swinging in and asking a few questions. So I've got some. What the things got to be, because it's about phenomenology, the approach to how we react to phenomenon rather than figuring out what the chemical origins or the otherworldly origins of the lights are. It's going to be relaxed. We're not in a hurry to try and tell a predetermined narrative. It is filming what happens when things happen, but also what Dan and Vinnie are going to look like out of their box. It's really easy. No, hang on. Not really easy. Let me start the sentence another way. It's comparatively easy holding your train of thought when you're on a podcast. You've got control of your environment. All sorts of stuff's going to happen here that's unexpected in the weirdest of places. So it's going to be interesting to film everybody when shit hits the fan. Not in horrible ways, but just in the things that happen when you're really high in mountains. things don't go according to plan all the time. And those are the best moments, the human story that comes from the investigation. We're not,
Yeah.
there's selected places, but I should say as well, we have, maybe you want to keep this for the end, but we've got like one place left on the public participant side, and we're still getting inquiries from people. So I should say, if there's anybody listening to this, it's not too late, even though it's a couple of weeks to go. You know, we're still looking for another hero for all this.
We did have one of the listeners ask, it was Peter just asking if you could sneak away in Dan's suitcase. So I don't know if that's an option necessarily, getting through customs for you, Dan, but you did have that one request.
I mean, I feel like it's definitely frowned upon, if not illegal, to smuggle people in your suitcase.
No,
but, so...
you can do that easily. You can smuggle anything into Colombia. That's a fact. Nothing.
Is it just getting him back out again? Is that the issue?
They're good at that.
Well, I was going to ask about getting some coffee brought back for me, but I don't
Yeah.
even know how easy that would be. So that would be nice.
Oh, we've actually already discussed coffee, and I'm gonna leave some room in my case to bring some back.
I should say, for obvious reasons, it's actually quite funny. When you take coffee, you can take 10, 20, 30 packs. It's a really high restriction. However, they've got to be coffee beans. You cannot have bags of powder in your suitcase for obvious reasons. They're going to open it. So as long as they're beans, you're good.
More than happy with bean to cup. I've got my setup at home. People know I'm a coffee fiend. But that was Peter who was asking about getting stowed away. I want to ask a few questions that some of the listeners have got in touch about. Monty had asked, can Monty ask that if something truly anomalous is seen during the trip, fingers crossed, are there any protocols put in place that you've collectively agreed upon to communicate that out?
That's like part of the very first morning's filming when Natalia, my wife, introduces the whole production and everybody and tells them the basics, like never have your telephone on, please, and somebody's speaking, try not to speak over them, but we're not going to try and hinge things in too much. But once she's done that, I'm going to be introducing a lot of local cases and the protocol for the week. But here's the thing: is I keep saying it's got to be organic. Is when something happens, I myself will have a way that I'm going to film that with Natty. Natty and I will have a filming protocol for this. What won't happen is the guys won't be told by us what to do if something happens. I need that to be phenomenological. I need that to be really raw. And look at what he did. And look what he did. She started shaking when he was just having none of it. So there won't be protocols for the guys, but there will be for what we do, filming it.
Let me ask on that. So you mentioned that there won't be like directions for Vinnie, can you react this way, or Dan, can you do this? Now we heard that in the production,
like, don't run towards the light.
Yeah. As tempted as Dan would be. But like Skinwalker Ranch is a big budget production, okay? And we've spoken to most of the cast too. And even like when we spoke to Brandon Fugo and Thomas Winterton, we mentioned that some of the things that happen can cause issues with the equipment. So they have no choice but to film it again when it's not happening naturally, because that's the only way they can capture it for TV. Is there going to be any circumstances like that you would look to, you're not falsifying a reaction, but that you would have to film again? Or do you think you would just choose to, if it doesn't happen on camera and it's not natural, it gets left out?
No, I'm never gonna have to. I've never done that. I don't need to. As I say, we're not answerable to, this is an independent project. You know, we've just launched our Phenomenology Patreon account. We're not having to support Jeep as a sponsor and heavy commitments to advertisers, so we don't need the same level of drama. I truly aim to produce maybe long form content with people discussing things through. So we're sort of doing on screen what your audiences are doing at home. They're thinking these things through. When you hear someone vocalizing something, you can get, oh, I think a bit like that, but no, not like. So I want to try to make it interactive as possible. And if that means that sometimes there's long pauses or silences where we're just filming the way that Dan is talking to the housekeeper, we'll do that if there's purpose and reason and it drives our story. We certainly won't be going for booms and swishes and getting drones up to try and recreate what was seen and all that kind of thing.
No, that's good to hear. I want to ask a question to Dan and Vinnie, then I'll come back to yourself, Ash, as well. This is from Dave. So Dave asked, what is the team's best guess as to what the Hessdalen lights are? Has the phenomenon informed your research, investigative strategy, or opinion on this particular trip? We'll kick off with Dan, because I know you're quite partial to this subject.
Yeah, I mean, first things first, we should emphasize those three magic words, I don't know. Like, we have to say that whatever I say next is conjecture and is based on my own ideas. We just don't know. That study was done, 85 onwards. It had some really, really great long-term results. Vinnie had, remind me of the gentleman's name.
Erlingstrand.
That's it, Erlingstrand, who conducted the study on his channel to talk about that, which is a great interview. I'd recommend people go watch that. But now to step into the speculation zone, just to be clear, I think that the research around EVO and ball lightning and things like that are very, very interesting. It seems that there's a lot of different names for similar phenomena. It seems that these might be caused by piezoelectric effects in, the geography of the place, but there are also some weird facts that, these things don't occur along the San Andreas Fault, for example. If it was earthquake lights, this is kind of the areas that you'd expect to see them. So it seems to be a mix. And I was very kind of taken with what Ashley said about the gentleman who said that it is a mix. There's this natural phenomena, but there's also these ships communicating with light. And I've always wondered if perhaps there's a natural phenomena that's being utilized to power these UAP. That's where I would go with my speculation.
Interesting. And Vinny, what about yourself?
Yeah, kind of along the same sort of lines as what Dan just said. But when I spoke to Erlingstrand and he gave this wonderful presentation during our interview that showed all these lights that really do bear resemblance to similar things that Ashley has put online as well on social media. But then Erling was also giving these stories of lots of witnesses in the areas over the years who have witnessed UFOs, solid objects, with some stories and drawings of what these people witnessed. So it's two different things. So that mirrors what Dan just said. That mirrors what Angelo. It is Angelo, right? The groundskeeper.
Angelo, yeah, he's the guy that's got this,
that.
and he's one of, as you say, many that's in the valley here that's got that.
Yeah, so it seems to be that both cases seem to have two possible big things that it could be. So that's why I said earlier that I'm going out with a very open mind and not trying to pinpoint one or the other until we've seen something and done some analysis or some investigating.
And Ashley, you mentioned the striking similarities and even the distance and the area which the Hessdalen lights are seen as to the lights that you're going to be investigating up close and personal. Have you got any ideas yourself as to what Hessdalen may be? And I'm aware at this point I might ask some things that you're wanting to keep for the production itself anyway, but what are you... There's obviously what you hope, but is there a what you expect?
I will remain the probably the only person that you've had on your show that never says behind an NDA, dude, can't talk about that. I've been personally fascinated with this Hessdalen phenomenon since the beginning. That was really one of the things that turned me on, and the reason was because Professor Strang he's from the University of Oslo, so he always made it safe. It was a safe access route to a really interesting, unexplained plasma phenomenon that does have, as Vinny said, they've got 3 photographs and they're filed in the uni as the black objects. We have that here too, the Objetos Negras. These are the black discs, and they have been reported above the airport. These are the classic UFO reports above this mountain. So it's a very, very same phenomenon that's going on here that goes on in Hessdalen. But, there's one of the benefits that's going on here is Hessdalen's exceptionally remote and hostile. So they have scientific equipment that's up there trying to track those lights. I live on the base of this phenomenon, and I've seen it myself now on 19 occasions in a year. I'm going to have other people watch it with me. So this is something that you can interact with. It's like Hessdalen 3D. That's it.
And a follow-up to that from Dave Ashley, and I'll ask this one to yourself. Again, maybe touches on potential aspects of things that might be included in production. Does the local folklore, historical record, or other photographic or video evidence suggest some explanations for the lights are more likely than others?
Yeah, we've got a list of the most prominent and the most preferred interpretations, which only recently in the last, since 1969, that was the first major, what you call a UFO abduction case that involved lots of people. And that was the first major UFO report at the mountain. But before that, they were always interpreted as the spirits of saints. Since 1608, they were reported as the spirits of the saints that came out to protect the village. Now, prior to that, the Muisca, the indigenous cultures, believed that they were called the luces brillantes, the brilliant lights, or the souls of traveling dead shaman who were traveling from this world to the next. So they had a spiritual interpretation all the way up to this modern UFO interpretation. However, I should say this, which is really cool. A lot of the farmers who believe it's, they don't actually say whether it's a UFO or not. Listen to this. I was actually tempted to use this as the name of the show. Historically, for at least 200 years, I'll show you the reports and the books when you get here. I've got them all ready for us. The phenomenon was called the charm. Imagine, they called it the charm. So we have loads and loads of reports of farmers who say this. They all say the charm emits from the Cerro Mahoy, one mountain, and it crosses the valley like a golden star, stopping above the farms and finishing at Waika. They all report the charm glowing like a golden ball, stopping and making its way between the two mountains. If you're not interested in that, you've not got a heart.
No, it does sound it sounds amazing, and again, it's something that it would have been amazing to be there, but with Dan and Vinnie being out there representing the UK, I think, and the larger community that have helped to get Dan there as well and support those guys, it's great, and I look forward to the finished product. I don't have too much to follow up on that. I want to give you gents a chance at the end to add anything before what we've got left of our limited time. So, over to you, gents.
Can I just add that on the 7th, which is the day we'll arrive, Michigan University launched their online free course about UAP. So I'd recommend everyone jump on, sign up for it. It's free. It's kind of one of the only qualifications you can do for UAP. So get your certificate, because you know it's probably about 2 hours of work. So that's a fairly easy net to pass. So yeah, go sign up.
Nice. Vinny, anything you want to add yourself, man?
I think if anybody does want to kind of follow us along on the journey, I will be doing sort of Instagram lives and stuff, not giving away much of what we're doing with what we're recording, because I don't want to give away any or spoil any of the production, but it'll be more just to see how we're coping, how we're getting on, just to see our faces in a different place, and, you know, just touching base with people that, you know, regularly see us doing these like lives and stuff, but just from this beautiful location. So yeah, I'd say, you know, people come and follow me on Instagram, and we'll be doing that. Obviously, Dan's going to do the same, so follow Dan as well, and Ash. So come and follow us all there. So
yeah, you'll see a whole bunch. I'll be filming just for kind of a podcast episode, so we'll do a nice visual one about the trip when we get back. So yeah, there'll be a whole bunch of cool content to come out of it.
Yeah.
And Ash, you also mentioned there is one place still up for grabs, and I'm going to do my best to get this out. Just after we record this, I've got another interview, and then straight after that, I'm going to get this out as quickly as possible. So, how could people get involved if they still want to fill that space?
It's really simple. You can go to History Fuzz, my web platform, and Phenomenology. It's going to be really obvious when you get there. But what I'm going to advise people to do is go to the Phenomenology Patreon account, Patreon/Phenomenology. Because if you sponsor the show there with one of the tiers, you can get access to discounts on the trip to Colombia. So Patreon Phenomenology, historyfuzz.com Phenomenology. And throughout the next coming months, I think we'll all be using the hashtag Phenomenology. So if people follow that, they're going to be keeping abreast of what we're doing.
And I'll make sure all those links that Ash has mentioned are in the description of the podcast. They're already in the part 1 and part 2 of the interviews as well, so you can get them in any of those locations. Gents, again, I've got a limited time. I've got another interview straight after this as well, so I can only wish you the best on your trip. Safe travels. Ash, look after them when they're there. Don't let them have too much fun. And yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing about the production, but also seeing the finished article itself, and of course getting Ash you back on to discuss that when you're ready and the time's right. So have you got an idea at this point? Obviously you've got a good solid 10 days, but then the hard work probably starts afterwards, getting it all put together. When you hope to have this released?
I want to launch it on the 1st of May.
1st of May. That's ambitious.
It is, but what's good about it is we're going to be doing it in short form packets, maybe 12 to 18 minute episode a week, so we can sustain this. So it's something people can support, and it keeps going. And then just as season 1 comes to an end after maybe 2 or 3 months, season 2 would come after. But yeah, it's going to be 1st of May. That's my goal. I don't want to sit in it till it's out. Yeah, it's got to be fresh. I want it to be the same people that filmed it that are on there, not a year and a half older,
No, that's great. And
we'll be sure to talk about Star Wars in the first episode, just so you can pick up on all that SEO traffic from May 4th be with you,
I've just changed my publishing date. I'd meant to say May the 4th. Nice one, Dan.
Do you know what? I'm actually blown away, and you've done Dan a disservice, because you're planning on turning around a full production on video 4K in a couple of weeks, essentially. And if I asked Dan to draw me a logo today, it might be done by early May. So that's an incredible turnaround. But like I say, I'm really excited to see the finished product. And again, when the time's right, how folks can get involved with that as well and watch it. So yeah, awesome.
That guy's head's got less free bandwidth than Zencaster.
And there's a nice little promo for Zencaster for free right at the end there. There you go. Thank you very much, guys. Pleasure talking with you all. Look forward to speaking again soon.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thanks, Andy.
That is all for this week's show. Thank you very much for listening. Please remember to leave the podcast a review on your chosen platform. You can like, retweet and subscribe. That would all be very much appreciated. The shows are being uploaded onto YouTube as we speak more and more. You can sign up at patreon.com/That UFO podcast to access the shows ad-free as well. Please get in touch on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, That UFO podcast. Of course, on Twitter, it's at UFO UAPAM. And again, folks, as always, keep looking up. You never know what you might see.
It wasn't a tic-tac and not quite a saucer, more like a hubcap designed by Chaucer, a little Baroque and quite steampunk, like Alice was playing bass for the Parliament of Folk. The little fucker hovered right outside of my window, and when I shoved out the screen, he made it an issue. I don't think he expected me to see his ass, but I'd had some champagne and smoked a little grass. Meditative game of state full on meta. I can't imagine how it could have been any better. I got to the top of the stairs and there he was. Like, you awake? I was about to abduct you, cuz. I jumped back and nearly kissed myself, and I climbed out the window after the elf, and I woke up in my bed and there was something on my head and everything was weird and everything was red. And I called out to my boys. They thought this was noise. They thought it was a dream. They thought it was my toys. They thought it was my problems, and they think I should seek therapy, and I don't know what to do because it doesn't really scare me. If you really want to know who I think I be, I think it's you and me and us and we and him and her and that and she and that thing over there and what's that, Jake? But if we're being serious, open your mind, consider your heart, consider time, consider your space, consider your lies,
you.